I wouldn't have had to comment on this Daniel Bwala uh, issue, but someone just mentioned it to me just where I went out. The guy is from the Middle East, and he was making a huge joke out of it. And everybody feels very embarrassed. I pity him, and I pity his family. I actually do not know how he's going to face President Tinubu from Monday if he goes to work, honestly, because everybody will be looking at him as someone who, who is beside himself. Because it wasn't about being unintelligent or lacking morals and values, but that was too childish. You understand? Because the smartest thing to do, or the easiest thing, not really the smartest, yes, I used to hold those views about the president, but having come close to him and being, around him, I've worked closely with him for some time now. I now have a different opinion about him. And those views are in the past, and I've apologized, and I'm no longer interested in pursuing those line of, uh, that line of thoughts around about the president, and that ends it. So the guy shows you the first interview you had in the past, you say that wasn't you. Second one, third one, guy, what's wrong with you? Were you high on something? So why it bothered me is that there are many Daniel Bwalas in the room of Nigerian public decision making platforms. There are many like that, and it's very unfortunate. In fact, for me as a person, what really shocked me is that if you know President Tinubu very well, you will be surprised that Daniel will be doing that. I don't know of any other Nigerian politician today who has the capacity to forgive his traducers, who has the capacity to forgive those who have opposed and insulted him in the past, like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man who was built on the streets. He's a very solid, you know, politician. He was baked in the political, frying pan, if I'm to say it that way. So he knows practically everybody in the Nigerian political scene. He knows the nuances. He understands the game. If you check his time in Lagos, there were times when he fell out with people like Obanikoro, Femi Pedro, even Ambode and all those. All those guys are back, back around him. You understand? I think he has this very large. A lot of politicians need to go and learn. I've said this in President Tinubu is a political school that needs to be studied in Nigeria. You may moralize around politics. I have been in politics for some time. I've lived in the West. I've interacted with high-end politicians everywhere beyond Nigeria. Well, some developed countries have systems. They have those systems are very difficult for you to, walk around them with these kind of characters like Daniel Bwalas and all those characters we have in Nigeria. But there's still no morality in politics anywhere. So, and jumping from one government to the other is something that not only very few Nigerians can say, oh, they haven't jumped from here to here. Maybe people like President Tinubu who stood and built a solid opposition platform, and that, took him to the presidency. You understand? So, why we feel embarrassed we just need to sympathize with him because it's a maybe he needs to get himself properly checked up, medically, psychologically, because it was the easiest thing to do was to admit, yes, I said those things, but now I no longer hold those views. Simple. Because the truth of the matter, I've been very close to very top level public officers. Sometimes what you hear about them from far is very different from what you hear, what you know about them when you come close. I've sat in a room where somebody was discussing a politician that I know very, very well. What they were saying was completely opposite of who the man is. And the person was saying it with all, that's why I always advise young people. When you're on social media, don't be writing, don't be harsh and don't be very strong. Don't press down some of this opinion and line of thought, some of which you don't even have the facts. Some of the things people say about, yeah, Nigerian politicians are, They're a very terrible set of people, right? But the point is that they are some, in fact, some of the people that Nigerians, glorify are more terrible than the ones that they vilify. Because I'm not sounding immodest. I know a lot of these politicians on a personal level. Some of the people hero worship are very terrible people. Some of the people that they vilify are opposite of the people they hero worship. So sometimes we need to be careful how so the issue is that many people have come to this conclusion that the challenge with Nigeria is leadership. Leadership, because at the class of those who are at the decision making room are people who do not have strong morals, strong values. You know, their decisions are mostly guided by other factors that are not altruistic. And so that is why with the outcomes that we get at the end of the day are outcomes that embarrass everybody, surprise everybody, shock everybody. So we need to, you know, this is this like a moment of reflection to say, so if we have these kind of characters in our public spaces, these are the people, this is a special advisor to the president of a country with over 250 million people. And he can act, not lie. Because for me, it wasn't about lying, it's about the childishness, about thinking. How do you think like this? Two things that have made me, I've had several experiences. When they were doing the third term in the National Assembly, I used to be in the forefront. If you can go back to when Benga Roleba started Focus Nigeria on AIT, that was when actually the debates for Obasanjo's third term. I used to be on AIT on weekly basis, sometimes twice in a week. We are really the ones who really at the forefront debating and fighting the third term in the media space. I remember, going to the Senate gallery one day to observe the debates. Senator Nuhu Aliyu, was so angry when listening to late Senator Ibrahim Mantu, talk about how the government of Obasanjo has reformed the country, have an improvement in Nigeria and a lot of things, and why we need to, amend the constitution to allow him an option to continue office. And Senator Nuhu said, well, Mantu, my brother, Senator Mantu, look at your face. Look at how you're shining. Look at how robust you look now. Why wouldn't you say that? Because the government is favoring you. He said, my brother, the problem with you is that some of you do not know how to manage poverty with dignity. But a lot of Nigerian politicians, I think it was Saraki, either his Oloye himself, the older Saraki, or the younger Saraki, that said something that before Nigerians should try to create a structure that before you venture into politics, you must have a a handwork, a second address. Because most of these guys, the problem they have is that because they don't have a second address, because they don't have some of them don't have proper education. If you look at all the spaces today, a lot of people's qualification are, even the people you think have good qualification, the thing is in the public space. There are a lot of debates on those qualifications, on the certificates they presented. Some of those people do not have proper qualifications. Some of them do not have proper career paths and all that. So they only latch on the public office. That becomes the only way to survive. So few months after public office, they are looking for entry into another space. So the point is, this is a time for people to look at it. I worry about how the man is going to face the president, because the president will be embarrassed. The president will be embarrassed to look at this guy, deny himself, because if maybe he also was he afraid of the president, that means he doesn't know. I am one of those that believe that President Tinubu is he may not be getting everything you want right. There are so many, if you understand the enormity of challenge Nigeria faces, you understand. you'll be very slow in blaming a president. The only challenge I have with the president is with the experience that he has, with the where he was coming from, opposition, with the knowledge, with the rhetorics that he was running from the outside government, now becoming president, I thought that there are certain things, very few things, not so much. First, in terms of hiring, the kind of people that are there are good people in that government, but they do not, I don't think they have the strategic leverage that they need to alter a lot of things. You understand? Then there's too much emphasis on politics. And because of this, if too much emphasis on politics, this too much emphasis on re-election, that's why you have characters like Bwala and all those kind of people around the president. And I've always emphasized Nigeria, the current system that we are running today is not suited for the kind of development that we need. This periodical re-election, this 4 year cycle, maybe on another conversation, on another video, we'll have that conversation. Nigeria is not ripe for the kind of system that we are running. We like to be hypocritical. We like to deceive ourselves. No, 90% of the people who get re-elected do not get re-elected because of performance. They force themselves back into office. You understand? In fact, some of them win election on good record, but the re-election is the fourth because by the time they have done the 4 years, many people will just find out that what they thought about the people is practically different from who really the people are when they now sit in that office. So the next time they get back re-elected, they practically force themselves. So rather than waste resources on on INEC and all those logistics, the bad blood, and all kinds of things that we do, why don't we have a one long stretch tenure? 6 years, seven, even if it's the 8 years, do it straight and go home. You understand? That way, whether you're the governor or the president, once you are elected, you know that nobody will blackmail you with a re-election. Because just imagine that President Tinubu is not facing re-election. Will he bother to be, getting procuring all those governors, people decamping, and he wouldn't bother about that really, because he needs to be re-elected. And would you not go for re-election if you're the president? Are you not a Nigerian? Are you not qualified to be re-elected? You should actually have the right of first refusal. You understand? And when Nigerians said the president has not performed, yes, but who sets who has the marking scheme? Because this has, and the other day I was having this conversation with a very senior, one of the guys that presents one of the most the popular programs on in Nigerian television. I asked him, you guys are in the media, you interview people, you always go for trendy news and issues. Have you sat down and said, as media, can we work with Nigerians to set an agenda? For example, if we say we want to have an election in 2027, can we say today these are the irreducible minimum standard in terms of performance? These are the sectorial KPIs that this person must, speak to in terms of experience. So if we need to move from 10,000 megawatts to a 20, 30, 40,000 megawatts, can you just run us through the journey? How do you go to how you going to get it done? Just tell us. Let's know. Can you campaign on the basic of this? This is our goal. This is our objective as a country. These are the things we want the president to do for us. So who is doing that in Nigeria? So when we don't do that as citizens or civil society, all kinds of things, how then do you say the president has failed? If you what exam did you set for the president? So the president comes and say, I will do this, I will do this. Is he a spirit? Does he really know that is the key? What is the need assessment mechanism that was done to, come up with those, manifestos or campaign promises and all kinds of things. So the point is that there's also a failure on the part of the citizen in terms of expectation. So uh, so so that's why they come up with all kinds of narratives, and when they come we say they're doing reforms, they're doing transformation, 7 point agenda, 10 point agenda, and all kinds of things. because there are no agenda sets for them. There are no benchmarks and all that. So um, for Daniel, I really, for me, if you ask me, he guy needs to do full medical assessments, psychometric assessments, psychological assessment, physiological assessment to know if he's okay. Because now some people they take go mad one day, they say they know what they do.